Greetings and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a hotshot train that I worked on a regular basis, Mail 44, I believe it was. It was a mail train out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, running to South Kearny, New Jersey. And on the freight railroads, freight rules the night. That's when the freight runs. And during the day, maintenance away takes care of the tracks and locals do their work. But we were usually the first eastbound out of Harrisburg, and then other trains would follow us. And we were called to go on duty around 11:30 p.m., midnight in that area. And that was usually about 45 minutes before the mail train was due to arrive at the Harrisburg fuel pad. Now the fuel pad was on multiple tracks in Harrisburg Yard and could fuel a lot of locomotives all at once. It was like an Indianapolis 500 pit stop when trains arrived, especially the hotshot trains. So we would get to the yard office in Harrisburg with enough time to check our bulletin orders and train orders and do whatever we had to do before the train arrived on the fuel pad. It would arrive on the eastbound main, and as soon as it stopped, mechanical forces would put a blue light on the control stand, which meant don't touch the controls, excuse me, as they fueled the locomotives. And they'd fuel all the locomotives on the train at once. And they would remove the blue light and we'd be on our way. We would run track speed because the train was light compared to a mixed freight train. And we were usually overpowered, meaning we had more than enough locomotives. And I was experienced on the job, so I could run constant speed, whether going uphill or downhill. And the speed limit was 50 miles an hour. And I would run right on 50, except for speed restrictions and diverting routes at interlockings. Being the first train east at night meant that in a snowstorm, we would be the first train to plow through any snow. And if it was heavy snow, it would give you the sensation of driving down a white highway because you couldn't see any train tracks, and there would be trees on each side of this white flat area. And the municipalities, when they plowed their streets and grade crossings, they would leave a pile of snow on each side of the grade crossing. And so when you hit it with the locomotive, you'd hear a double thump and snow would fly up over the windshield in the headlights. It was pretty dramatic. And when you got to the interlockings, the propane switch heaters would have the snow melted on all the switches, and it'd be the blue flames of the heaters of the propane burning. It was pretty neat. We could run from Harrisburg from the moment we left the fuel pad till we arrived in South Kearny and cut the locomotives off. It would be just over 4 hours. And for hauling usually about 150 trailer trucks on a train, that's pretty good. When we arrived at South Kearny with the train, there would be piggy packers lined up on the fuel along the pad to unload the train. And the moment we cut the engines off, they would put blue flags on each end of the train and start unloading. There was no wasted time, and that was because Conrail got a bonus if they delivered the train early, and they were penalized if they delivered the train late. So the railroad and all its employees had an incentive to get the train to get the train to its destination as quickly as possible. The train dispatchers would be happy if you sped, ran over the speed limit. However, I never did that because if there was a mishap, Conrail management would squash you like a bug. So I ran the speed, the track speed. Some engineers didn't. There was one trip I remember when the train dispatcher called us and asked me, "Where'd you lose your time?" And I didn't lose any time. I was running right on the money. And I told him that, and I told him to check the interlocking times at each interlock, and then he would see that. He didn't answer me, but listening to the radio, I realized what happened. It was the road railer out of Hagerstown was behind us, and I knew the engineer, and he ran fast, fast enough that he was catching up to us, and so that's what the dispatcher was seeing. Anyway, that was my experience with a hotshot train. The mail trains and the road railer were Conrail's hotshot trains. So, if you have any questions, leave them below, and take care. And don't forget to put some sand down.